Okay, so in this particular video, I want to talk about something that I saw not too long on the internet. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about it. Specifically, it's about a princess, and she gets kidnapped, and then she gets saved, and the king is like, "Oh, I'll let you marry the princess afterwards." And she's like, "Nah, I want to marry the court mage." For saving the princess. Um, and that's interesting enough. Good start to a story. I like that idea. So instead of marrying the princess, you want to marry the court mage. And I liked it. I was like, that's a good start. A lot of directions you could go there, a lot of things that could happen. But then comes the next part, which, you have other people who added on to the story. And the one that people liked the most was that, the king asks, "Oh, why do you want to marry the princess and not or why you want to marry court mage, not the princess?" And then it turns out that the person who saved the princess was the princess. Now, let me just kind of stop here for a second. There's a lot of problems with this idea. The problems with this idea is you need to try to understand the princess's motivation because she's just done a lot of things, right? And I'll kind of type these out. She's done the following things. She's faked kidnapping. She's uh, pretended to save herself, and she asked for the court mage. And everyone was like, "Oh man, it's so good," everything like that. There's a lot of problems with this, especially in a monarchy. You've just faked your kidnapping. You've basically taken the king, and in a lot of ways, you made a fool out of him. You pretended to get kidnapped. You pretended to save yourself. Then you asked for the court mage. Now, if the king really liked her, this could go good for the princess, maybe. Could go good for her. But at the same time, what happens to the king? King is going to be a huge obstacle at this point, right? Because if she marries the court mage, which I believe is also a girl, that's a huge problem in a monarchy sort of situation. You're like, "Oh, this, free love." I don't care. That is irrelevant. Number one thing that's most important for royalty has nothing to do with anything, but it has to do with posterity, being able to have kids. This basically cuts that out. There will be no kids, so that's a problem. So the king wouldn't ever accept something like this. Also, he's still been made a fool. And so you're going to run into a bunch of issues here. Bunch of issues. First of all, unless there's some sort of race for the throne, like a bunch of people are trying to get the throne, and this is all subterfuge that the princess is putting on in order to get it, and the king recognizes this and allows her to do it. There's only a couple things that could be going on here. And the number one thing that's probably going on here is that the princess may be trying to overthrow the king. Something that the king would not allow. He may have promised that you can marry whoever you want, right? He may have promised that, but his word is law, and he could just pretend he didn't say that, or he could counteract his words. This puts you into a really bad writing place. Like, what is going on here? What is going to happen? And how is the king not going to kill your princess? Because if she's just straight going to try to get the court mage, and getting a court mage would probably be a pretty big thing, because that means that you're getting someone who's pretty powerful, someone who, can basically overcome the king, right? The princess gets with the court mage, they beat the king. But then, like, there's very little known. Also, this may, and what I was reading, mostly from comments and things like that, this was mostly sort of an immature sort of idea that you can do this, that this is something that just can happen. So we got a level of immaturity. Now, if there's a level of immaturity going on here, That's fine. But you have to also think about um, what else could be going on, right? So we got this level of immaturity going on. We don't know exactly why. We don't know what's going on here, but this also opens up your story to a lot of problems. Specifically, what is the age of your court mage? Because normally a court mage serves for long periods of time. In order to be a high level court mage, you'd have to be quite old. And this brings up a serious problem. What is the age gap? Uh, how did these two interact? Because if those can't be answered properly, you got a very serious problem here. Just in the story itself, and a lot of people are not going to read this. A lot of people are going to see this and be like, "Ooh, that is not for me." So if that's not for you, then what exactly is going on here? Um, Hopefully, it is more of a princess trying to grab power. However, if the princess is trying to grab power, showing her hand right here at this moment probably just killed her off. She's not going to survive this. And you may be asking yourself, why wouldn't she survive this? Well, think about it. If the princess takes the court mage, like why is the court mage not already just going with the princess, right? What's happening to prevent that court mage? Well, in a lot of these stories, I'm sure that there could be a lot of things. Maybe the court mage is lesser than the king. Maybe they consider the court mage to be, a puppet, or maybe the court mage has to obey due to some magical law. Who knows? Who knows why? And the king giving the court mage to someone else would be a big thing. But giving it to like a loyal knight of your realm would make some sense because you kind of want the knowledge and the abilities to be passed down from generation to generation. But giving it to the princess, that's not going to work. Obviously, once again, no kids problem. So we're starting to run into a lot of problems here. So let's talk about how we could write our way out of this story or into something, right? Now, the whole princess angle is bad. It looks bad. It feels bad. She is obviously deceptive. Um, but you might need to lean into that, right? What if the princess's whole thing is like the king never goes back on his word and always follows through with everything he says? Well, then obviously the princess knows this and she's taking advantage of the king. That could be bad on a lot of levels, mainly because she doesn't believe in what her father's doing. Maybe the king is a bad king. Maybe you could try to paint him that way, but she's still kind of, and maybe the king is deceptive as well. But I mean, well, then again, he can't if he always keeps his word. So basically, you're talking about a tragedy here. This is going to end up badly. The princess, who is a liar and a manipulator, is trying to overthrow a king who keeps his word. That's bad. This is these two obviously either don't have a good relationship in this sort of situation. Um, Very bad situation. Could cause the end of the kingdom, could cause a lot of issues here. So what else are we going to do? What else can we do here? This is bad relationship, right? Well, maybe she's trying to beat out her siblings for a place to become king. Well, that's a much better, much more interesting sort of thing. Maybe this is just a play. This is best case scenario. So best case scenario, or situation in this case, um, she's trying to become the queen. Best case scenario. So that's the best case scenario, but we got a lot of issues with that. If she's trying to become the queen, great. King could technically accept this. He could realize he's been beat, and that could help her out a lot if she goes and gets the court mage. Best case scenario, right? But the king would probably still be very hesitant, and her siblings might be in a far better position if she's going to this level of deception to fool the king. Um, Her siblings are probably in a good place. Now, as soon as she gets that, what are her siblings going to happen? This is a best case situation, by the way. So siblings see this and they are going to start considering the following things: murder of both the court mage and the princess, one or the other, um, uh, marriages to other kingdoms, marriages to make their position stronger, and other nobles who would very much not like this. Because, I mean, we can look at things however we want, but if we are going to expect that this is not going to be a huge problem among the nobles right here, then we're fooling ourselves. If and they could play on that. Like she's trying to get herself in a better position, but she's at the same time getting herself into a worse position. She's just gone from one position, which was probably bad, to another position, which is probably bad. Both positions don't end up in a good place. Worst case scenario, she's trying to overthrow the king, so overthrow. So worst case. Maybe she already was a single child. Who knows? There could be a lot of things going on here. She's trying to overthrow the king sooner rather than later. So, what kind of people try to overthrow other people? Well, if she's trying to overthrow, she's a tyrant. That's not great. So, she obviously has severe issues here. So, best case, she's trying to become queen. Worst case, she's a tyrant. She's going to kill the king. Both of these are bad. Now, the king's going to know his daughter. If he knows that she is in a worst case scenario, best case scenario, she lives for a while until this happens. Worst case scenario, he kills her on the spot. She's dead right here. That's the end of the story. Over. This is what I think a lot of people aren't thinking about. You have to consider what would happen in an actual situation like this. You're going to write a story here, right? You got to think about, well, how would these people react? What do we know about these people so far? Well, we know that the princess is deceptive, which is a terrible trait to necessarily have. It could be a great flaw for someone, being deceptive. We also know, and you can think of this as a flaw or not, but in this particular case, it would be a flaw. She has gay tendencies, right? That eliminates her basically from the crown immediately. There's a huge reason why this was never a thing. And mostly it's because a lot of people always die in these. And I mean, probably a lot of people dying here too. I mean, it's Middle Ages. Sicknesses just take everyone, right? And that's where most of these are set up. And if you try to make this more of a modern thing, why do they even have a king anymore, right? It's kind of like, thinking about how useless the king in England is, right? Like, why do we even have that anymore? Type of idea. And a lot of people think this or think that, but let's be honest, yeah, that doesn't matter. So we got a lot of things going on here. Princess has bad tendencies and not tendencies fit for becoming king, which is why I think over here, with best case scenario, is not what's happening. I definitely think it's more of a worst case scenario situation. She, for whatever reason, either wants the court mage gone out of the picture with the king, or wants the court mage for herself to overthrow the king. Both are bad. Both are going to end up with death, destruction. Nothing good comes out of this. All of this, all of every single part of this ends up bad. And that's just the basic math of it. There's no math in this that goes good for her. So this part, obviously, if she isn't killed here, let's say she somehow escapes. Well, she gets nothing, right? Now she's an outcast. That's bad. What are you going to do with that? Is she going to learn? Is she going to grow? What's she going to do? You could have, I mean, there are a lot of really great outcast stories, but normally the people start off showing good traits. They obviously have flaws, but she's just showing off bad traits. She does have some good traits in that she seems to be able to save a princess, but that's a lie, right? Pretend to save herself. We already have that. That's a lie. We already know that. So she becomes an outcast. Best case scenario over here, she wins, and let's just write this down. Um, she wins, overcomes her siblings, gets crowned. Okay. Let's continue this, right? She got everything that she wants. Um, what's going to happen to the kingdom, right? Well, at this point, um, no heirs. So adoption, which would cause severe issues with nobles and overall, this is going to cause the end of the kingdom because whoever gets adopted, everyone else is not going to like that, and it's probably going to be an adoption from the noble society, right? Um, and no one's going to like kingdoms are built off of normally families back in those times. And there's a lot to be said there, but they're built off of people who've done great things normally, people who upheld law, people who created law. Those are how kingdoms are made, though those certain ways. So after a while, people get kind of set in their ways, and they believe in the king and his subsequent people, not always for good reasons, right? Like, I mean, just looking here, like this is one of the king's children right here, right here, right now. We got one of the king's children and the princess. She obviously has huge maturity. And worse yet, well, we'll talk about worse yet in a minute. So she wins, overcomes siblings, gets crowned, no heirs, adoption, outcry, end of the kingdom. Because this is going to cause civil war. This is going to cause other kingdoms to see your weakness. This is going to cause you to lose stuff. And even if it's not the end of the kingdom itself, is going to be the end of the kingdom as you know it. It's not going to be the same. This is going to cause severe problems, especially because, hey, this is okay now to not have kids and to adopt. That's going to cause so many problems, especially if they start pulling from people that the nobles don't think should be there, right? Now, another problem, huge problem, age gap. Let's say the court mage is manipulating this. This could actually be a really good story here. It could have to deal with abuse, and all sorts of things, but it'll be an uncomfortable story for sure. So let's say there is a huge age gap between the court mage and the princess. Let's say the court mage is quite a bit older and she is actually manipulating the princess. Court mage could be like in some sort of slavery, some sort of indentured thing. Doesn't really matter. She wants free and she wants the princess to do it. Well, there's a couple ways that this ends. One, she gets her freedom. Court mage disappears. Poof, gone. Great. Maybe she was doing that to the princess the whole time just to get away. Other side, court mage was grooming her the whole time, and that's bad. If that was happening, that's bad. So this is very bad. Very bad ending right here. And it also goes along with how do these two interact the whole time. This is a hard story. This would be a really hard story to write. There's a lot of ways that you could go through this, but you got to think about how is this going to end? Who's going to win here? Is it just a tragedy? Are you writing a tragedy? Because if you're writing a tragedy, you've got a good story on your hand. This is not going to end well. It's going to end poorly. Everyone's going to end up very mad and very sad. Not a great ending. But if that is not the way that this is happening, if you want this to be some sort of amazing story where the princess is the number one, she is the princess, she's your main character, she's the best. Well, you've just written something that I like to call modern day writing. You see a lot of it nowadays where someone is perfect already and those stories suck. There's a reason why the box offices are bad. There's a reason why things like that are not working. Because this, where she is your main, she is the best, she is your golden girl, that sucks. No one's going to read that. Everyone's going to hate it. And in the end, if she ends out, let's just say, let's just say you go third option, and let's just talk about third option. So she's the best and she is infallible. So let's go ahead and we'll crawl this, we'll scoot this down here. She is infallible. Well, That means she needs the following things: no flaws, no obvious flaws. I mean, you could say, oh, she's manipulative or anything, but that's not a flaw. Okay. Even though that is an obvious flaw to a normal person, to you, it's not obvious. Terrible, no growth, no change. Why don't we like to read this story? Well, let's think about that for a second. No flaws, no growth, no change. What did I just watch? Same from the beginning, same from the end. Pretty set pieces, that's it. Nothing changed. This right here is what a lot of modern day stuff has changed into, where nothing changes, no growth, no obvious flaws, main character's perfect, and everyone else just needs to realize that she already was. Huge problems. Anyway, that's the end of this. I just kind of want to talk about it because it was so ridiculous and it's been weighing on me for quite a while. And it just amazes me how people think that this is okay and when it so obviously is not. So please, before you start making these stories, before you start building these things, you have to think about how everyone is going to react, not just your main character, because otherwise she lives in a world with a bunch of cardboard cutouts. That is not an interesting story. And if you only have one person who's got anything going on with them, that's just bad. So be conscious in your writing, be intelligent in what you do. And I'll share some of my writing stuff over time, kind of talk about it. But anyway, that's it for me for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys were able to see where I'm coming from here. And if you have suggestions on how this story could work, write it down in the comments. Maybe there is a way that this works that I'm not seeing, but I don't know. I think you either have to make the king a complete pushover, a complete idiot, in order for any of this to happen. And oh man, it's really hard when you think about a court mage who just has all this power. Oh man, it just feels bad. Anyway, that's it for me. Hope you have a great day, and yeah, make sure you buckle your seatbelts. Okay, bye.